From my left, the members of the board are
David Farrell.
Brett Feldman.
Dustin Pastor.
Lynn Hertak.
Sam Walker.
Also in attendance this evening are from legal, Ms. Susan Johnson-Velez, from Development Coordination, Ms. Roberta Mead-Curry, and Mr. Brett Burks, from Natural Resources, Owen Williamson, and I do not see anybody from Transportation this evening. There's some procedural rules that you'll need to follow, and due to the COVID-19 pandemic, please adhere to safe social distancing as set within the room, and please maintain wearing facial mask at all times. When your case number and petitioner's name is called, please approach the podium. When you approach the podium, please state your name, address, and if you've been sworn in. The petitioner and/or their agent will have 10 minutes to make a presentation. All other persons and participants wishing to speak will have 3 minutes, and then the petitioner will have an additional 3 minutes for rebuttal if needed. The time periods as stated will be kept by the board. Any information such as pictures or plans that have not been previously submitted as part of your petition and you intend to present at this hearing for consideration in support of your petition must be individually presented and accepted by the board. After acceptance by the board, you may submit the item to staff for it to be entered and made part of the permanent record. The board bases its decisions on competent and substantial evidence which is presented and which meets the criteria required by the city's code of ordinances. The variance granted by the board will only be for what is shown on the site plan and will be in compliance with any terms and conditions stated in the approval by the board. All other city codes will need to be met. If the case is approved, your variance will expire 2 years from the date of the decision. If the case is continued, it will be continued to either next month's VRB board agenda or the next available position of an upcoming VRB board agenda. If the case is denied, you may wish to have the Variance Review Board's decision reviewed or appealed by the City Council, and you must file the petition for review of the board's decision within 10 business days of the written decision. You will not be able to pull any permits until after the 10-day appeal period has passed. Your cooperation in ensuring that this meeting is run smoothly is greatly appreciated. With that said, may I move to approve the minutes of the June 16th meeting without objection?
So moved. Brett Feldman, so moved.
Thank you. Do we need a second on that?
If you have a motion, yes.
Lynn Hertak, second.
Thank you. And at this time, I'd like to ask legal staff to confirm any ex parte communications and conflicts.
And did you want to take a vote on the motion?
Oh.
Or did you do it?
To approve the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
You gotta say your name.
Brett
Oh.
Feldman, aye.
David Farrell, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hertak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, board members, I would like to ask the members of the board if they have had any ex parte communications regarding any matters coming before the board this evening.
David Farrell, no.
All right. Seeing no further?
Brett Feldman, no, sorry.
All right, seeing no further,
Okay.
you may proceed.
Is there any business regarding the agenda that staff would like to address or any new business?
Yes, good evening. Roberta Mead-Curry, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Do have a couple items. We did have a very poor recording for last month's hearing, so I'm going to make some housekeeping suggestions. Everyone pull their mic closer towards them because we hardly heard some of the comments that you were making when you were making your motions. So we need to make sure that you're speaking right into the mic, please. Also, for the attendees that are here this evening, you'll see that there's a mic also on the podium, and also if you present near the overhead projector. Please pull that mic towards you. Please stand very close to it. We are not getting the quality of the recording that we need for the record. So if you could do that for us, we'd appreciate it. I do have one item to change on the agenda. That is a VRB case 2021. The authorized agent is not able to be here this evening, and I have laid his request on your tables this evening to ask that he be moved to next month hearing. Again, that hearing would be at 6:30, and it would be for August 11th.
Looks like that's the first on our agenda anyway, so we might as well go ahead and take a vote on the continuance. Do we have a motion?
I move that we continue case number PRB 20-21 to the August
11th.
August 11th time slot.
Would anybody like to second that?
Second.
Mr. Farrell, thank you.
Again, I can barely hear you all, so please speak up really loud and really clear.
Sorry. Yes,
Um,
ma'am. Second.
And a vote, please.
Aye.
Brett Feldman, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hurtak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
All right. That
Okay,
case has
one-
been continued to August 11th.
Thank you. Also, a couple other items. You are going to be doing a roll call each time you vote. So again, please speak very clearly and loudly, state your name and how you vote. And I am going to put on the record that Dr. Susan Long was to be present here this evening, so we're going to make a note that she's officially marked absent.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to start with the first case. It's case VRB 2024.
Mr. Pastor,
Yes.
would you like me to swear in?
Oh, sorry, I did miss that.
Brett Burks, City of Tampa zoning. Please stand to be sworn in. If you're giving testimony today, do you swear to and affirm that you will give the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
Okay, the first case is VRB 2024, located at 4306 West Beachway Drive. We'll have the staff report first, and then the petitioner.
Ready? Okay. Roberta Mead Curry, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. I have been sworn. Please let me know if you cannot hear me. Case number is VRB 2024. The address is 4306 West Beach Drive. The applicant is seeking relief from section 27290. The applicant is seeking to reduce the eave-to-eave separation from 10 feet to 5 feet. Applicant is seeking to build a new accessory structure and cabana over the existing pool deck area. The property is zoned RS 75. The Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's record is included in your packet. Right-of-way has found it consistent with conditions with asking to relocate any encroachments out of the right-of-way, and they're referring to the fence that they're showing on the site plan, that be removed from the right-of-way and relocated. Natural Resources has determined that the application does not trigger the review of the tree and landscape code, and zoning has found it inconsistent. This is the Natural Resources report. Property appraiser's record, page 1, page 2. This is the variance map. Again, showing the subject property in red, and the surrounding properties are all RS 75. Front of the structure, looking west down the street, looking east down the street. Side yard from front view on the east side. Side yard from west view, and again, this would be the side that would be where the cabana would be if you look further into the backyard. Site plan. And again, this is the street along here. West side, east side. Existing pool. Let me know if you need me to blow this up. But this is the existing home, and again, the street is out this direction. This is the existing pool, and this is the cabana area here that they're proposing. So again, the separation would be, the question is the eve-to-eve separation from the primary structure to the accessory structure, which is the cabana. I have nothing further to add to the record.
Okay. Petitioner, please give us your name, address, and whether or not you've been sworn.
Mike Loomis, 3613 West Palmyra Ave, Tampa 33629, and yes, I've been sworn in.
Okay, you've got 10 minutes to present your case.
Sure. So most of it was just summed up right there. Rear yard, existing pool deck, and we would like to build the cabana as in most line with the current pool situation, so we don't have to extend the deck out into the rear yard much further. We did look at the attachment of the cabana to the house, so we didn't have to. We can make it an accessory structure and keep it a main structure. But in building that, we would then be offset with the pool and then encroaching into the rear yard setback at that point. For this purpose, trying to keep everything in line and just asking and requesting for a reduction in eave to eave from 10 feet to 5 feet. Currently, anything under 75-foot yards or zoned to be 5 foot in the city of Tampa. So in this particular case, we're just asking to abide by one of the smaller yard properties, eve to eve. In this particular case here, you can see we got approximately a 17-foot by 20-foot cabana with the outdoor kitchen underneath there with a shower room off of here. Alignment with the pool is what we're trying to shoot for in this particular case, and the reduction of the overhang eve. So we got about a 1-foot overhang eve on the house, and then we have about a 6-inch overhang eve on the cabana. In that particular sense, we'll have that 5-foot offset between, which we're requesting. A little bit of closer picture at that point. Also, we'll then be requesting a 5-foot on the side.
Excuse me, can you speak into the microphone? I'm
sorry.
having,
Mike,
That wasn't-
if you could
forgot
pull
that
the
wasn't
mic,
there.
there's a mic over there on the.
There's one on the
There's a hand
table.
mic.
If you pull that one close to you as well, thank you.
There we go. Would you like me to start over?
No. Do you need him to start over? We heard him.
I did not hear the testimony, so yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, just when you were standing there, so.
Okay. Sorry about that. So what I was saying here was that we got about a 1-foot overhang on the house and a 6-inch overhang on the cabana. At that point, that's where we're looking for our 5-foot eve-to-eve reduction from the 10-foot required for this zoning. That would also take place on the side where the shower room would be the extension off the cabana. At that point, I do have some visuals here so we can see if you want to see what some of that stuff would look like. So here is the cabana, our roof structure turning, and then you can see our separation that we would have right there between the two eaves of the house. At that point, too, we have a second story back further, and it is a 1-story that we'd be getting close to there. This is then the cabana with the shower room. A little bit more of a straight-on view. And then the overall look that we're trying to line up with the current and existing pool and pool deck that we currently have. That's it for now. Any questions?
Does that complete your presentation? Yes. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this case? Seeing none. Board questions.
Have one.
Mr. Feldman?
Seems obvious based upon the illustrations you provided, but is this cabana never to be enclosed? Is that the intent?
That is correct, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Farrell?
Mike, did y'all ever, did you ever, the possibility ever explored with zoning perhaps of doing that roofing material on that freestanding structure out of fire retardant material to try and give them, they often bend and, you know, give a little break in Hyde Park, some of the historical neighborhoods.
Sure.
When you get eve to eve shorter than 7 feet, things like that, if you can do fire retardant
So
material.
we will have an aluminum flashing and gutters on it, which, as far as I know, is code sufficient for fire retardant.
Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Ms. Curry?
Yes, Mike, can you put the site plan that you have brought with you today? Because it is different than what we have submitted, so I need to see.
I did resubmit before, but I guess we didn't. You want the overall one or this one?
If you could use the microphone again, too. Pick up that microphone and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that one the one you're looking for, or you want the overall?
we don't, the structure that you see to the lower right of the cabana is not on the site plan that we have.
Mhm.
And I want to make sure that your cabana is the same. If it's not, then we need to maybe,
I spoke with zoning, Eric and Roberta, and they said that as long as I submitted 24 hours prior to the meeting, which it was, that it
I'm
was.
Roberta.
Oh, it was emailed over yesterday and uploaded.
The question is, does this change the notice? If the
No, when I talked to Eric Cotton about it, he said this didn't change anything. It was still same reduction from 10 foot to 5 foot.
So that
Yeah.
shower roof eave needs a reduction also?
Say that again?
Does the shower room eave meet the,
Yeah, that would be in the same
it's
classification.
still, it's short, it's still a little short?
Yeah, it's in the same classification as the rear. And he said it falls all into the same category. We're still meeting side yard setbacks.
So you haven't reviewed this. So are the dimensions on the, it's hard to read the site plan that we have in the record. Not this one, it's pretty easy to read it on the screen, but it looks like some of the dimensions might be different. Are they different anyway?
The overall cabana is still the same size. Clients came back prior to the meeting here and requested to add the shower room off to the side.
Okay, and where's the shower room in relation to the side yard setback? Is it 10 feet? It's flush with the,
So you have 3.5 feet off the, so side yard setback would be 3 feet. So we have 3.5 feet, as you can see, for access to the backyard for mowers, maintenance, and other things, but also meeting the 3-foot zoning condition for accessory structures on side yard.
like that. That's it. I think that's the bottom one. Well, I think that staff hasn't had a chance to review the site plan, and so that's what I think. Do you, it does say 17.2 on this sheet, as opposed to 17.4. Your dimensions for the,
It might be just how one of the lines was grabbed. 17.2 is perfectly fine. If that is the case, I don't have any objections with that.
well, it's just, I mean, it's the board's pleasure. It's just, these are site plan driven, so staff hasn't had a chance to review this site plan.
Well, in this case, it looks like the added shower room is requesting the same amount of separation reduction from 10 to 5. It's not encroaching on a setback. So it's not materially different from the original request, although it is a different site plan because it's got that little appendage to the south. So
If I may, haven't we, we've seen adjusted site plans that get adjusted here. People will make notes on them, so understand staff wants to make sure that it's accurate, and whatever's being submitted is going to be the accepted site plan, right? So if there's a difference between what's being presented here and what's on the site plan that's been submitted, the submitted site plan is going to be the one that's going to be accepted, correct?
That's correct. And I would definitely refer, in any motion that you make regarding this, I would refer to the site plan that was submitted at the meeting today.
okay.
So there's no confusion.
It looks like the original request that was noticed hasn't really changed, so I don't see an issue with moving forward if nobody else does.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that.
Okay. Are there any more board questions? All right, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal if you need it.
No, I don't need anything to rebuttal.
All right, thank you. Without objection, we'll close the public hearing and open it up for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Feldman?
I move that the variance request for case VRB 20-24 located at 4306 West Beachway Drive, as depicted on the site plan submitted at the public hearing today, for a reduction in the eve-to-eve separation from 10 feet to 5 feet to build a new accessory structure cabana over an existing pool deck, with the following, be granted with the following condition, that it never be enclosed, and that said variance as condition be granted based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and in this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria as set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the applicant is working around the existing layout of the pool and the home and the size of the lot, which create practical difficulties, that the applicant is attempting to maintain existing setbacks, and with the construction utilizing code acceptable fire retardant materials, the conditions are met.
Do we have a second?
Sam Walker, second.
Ms. Walker?
I'm sorry, Brett Burke zoning, was the condition only that it never be enclosed, or that it also included information about fire retardant?
Only that it never be enclosed.
Thank you.
And a vote. Mr. Farrell?
David Farrell, aye.
Brett Feldman, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hurtak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
Your motion's been approved 5-0.
Thank you.
The next case is case VRB 2028, located at 3202 West Harbor View. Are you present? Yes? Okay. Ms. Curry?
Ready? Okay, Roberta Mead Curry, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Case number VRB 20-28. The address is 3202 West Harbor View. The applicant is seeking relief from section 27290 to reduce the rear yard setback from 3 feet to 1.5 feet to vest portion of existing accessory structure and existing footprint of garage built in 1921. Applicant is seeking to build new accessory structure and/or garage over existing footprint. The property is zoned RS60, and the Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's information is included in your packet. Right-of-way, addressing, transportation has found it consistent. Natural Resources has found that the application does not trigger tree and landscape code, and zoning has found it inconsistent. This is Natural Resources report. Property appraiser, page 1. Property appraiser, page 2. And again, this is the existing structure here that they will tear down and replace, and again, built in 1921. Page 3 of the property appraiser's record. Variance map. Again, the subject property is in red. This is Harbor View here. Matanzas here. The property is on a corner lot. The surrounding properties are RS60. You have a residential RS50 here, and a PD here. the front of the structure. Looking down Harbor View to the west. This is looking down Matanzas up to the corner. This is Harbor View here. This is looking at the side yard, and this is the existing accessory structure here, existing driveway. Looking down Matanzas. Again, the existing structure. Back at the corner, looking down Harbor View. And a close-up of the accessory structure, and again, this is the side yard that they're asking. Rear yard that they're asking for the exception for. I have nothing further to add to the record.
Thank you. Please state your name, address, and if you've been sworn.
My name is Stephen, middle initial C, last name Powell. I live at 3202 West Harborview Avenue, Tampa, Florida, 33611.
And have you been sworn in?
I'm sorry, I have been sworn in.
All right. You've got 10 minutes to present your case.
We're just requesting a reduced rear setback from 3 feet to 1.5 foot. The existing setback is there now. The garage that needs to come down was built back in 1921. But what we want to do is just build a new garage right where it's at. We're building a new, little bit larger garage on the same footprint. It will accommodate 2 cars in the storage, which I've never had. I've been there for 30 years, 39 years, and would like to have that. It'll all look the same as it is now. We don't want to change any of that, except it'll have doors and gutters. It will not affect any water, electrical, or FiOS services in this area. And this variance will protect the 40-inch grand oak that sits out in front of it and will not impede into the root zone. And basically our request is we just want to tear this old structure down, put a new one up that looks just like it, to make our property look a little bit better. Like I said, to have a 2-car garage that we could park our cars in. Being the times that they are, we've been sitting on our porch, rocking, swinging, excuse me. Sorry.
Take your time.
Anyway, my point, and we have lots of neighbors that come by, and just to let you know, most of them, everybody comes by wonders why we have to do this, because it's an old structure, needs to come down, but we have to do this. And I do have a letter that was sent to the city. I don't think it was in any of the paperwork, but I have it if you want it. That the people, they were on lawn, appreciate what we're doing and have no qualms with what we would like to do. I think that's it.
If you have letter of support, it'd be good to submit that to Ms. Curry for the record.
Okay.
And board, the site plan is on the screen for you to reference.
Does that conclude your presentation?
It does.
Is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak on this case? Seeing none, open it up for board questions.
Sounded like you said this, but I just want to confirm. It's going to be the same size? No expansion of the size of the garage?
No, the garage will be built bigger. Can you see? I guess y'all can see this. This is the proposed.
You just pick up the microphone there on the table. It's all right.
Okay. I guess I misunderstood because you said that it was going to look exactly the same,
I'm sorry.
but it's growing.
Yes, sir.
Um,
The footprint on this is the proposed garage.
Okay, I understand.
So the proposed footprint is the same footprint that the original garage was? You're just gonna, are you gonna put a second story on it, or is it just it's just a larger? It's a single larger structure?
Single larger structure, wider, a little bit deeper.
Yes, sir, and it does a little wider and deeper, does it move, which direction is north? Does the building move?
It would move north.
It'd move north a little bit and?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And east.
And part of the reason you're doing this is to protect the radius around that large 40-inch tree, correct?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Are you saving any of the slab of the existing garage or any other part of the existing garage? The reason I ask is we're talking about 18 inches here, so the question, the natural question would be, why not just move the garage 18 inches forward? Are you keeping any of the old garage that's being built into this new one?
No, the garage as it sits now is termite ridden, it's been there for a while. We've replaced the roof a couple of times.
What about the slab?
There is no slab, it's a dirt floor.
Got it.
Never had a slab. It's just like it was back in 1921.
Okay. So is there anything preventing you from moving the whole garage 18 inches further off of the property line?
There's nothing, I don't think, to prevent us from doing that. It was just that we were afraid that we were going to come into the roots of this tree and,
Well, that would be something
yes.
to mention.
That-
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and that's what we were worried about and our biggest concern.
Okay.
The tree you're talking about, it's this one across the drive?
Right.
Yes, sir, it is.
And do you know what that distance is from the tree to the face of your new garage?
Of the new garage?
Yes, sir. Somewhere, even a rough guess?
It's 28 feet.
Okay.
40
And
inch.
that's really about how far for a large tree, right? Okay. Thank you.
Just to
Yes, sir.
clarify also,
Yes,
the driveway, the concrete drive that's there, that's an existing drive?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and you're not going to pull that up in any way, so the existing drive is going to go right into the new garage?
No, sir, we're going to keep it, we want to keep everything just like it is. When we bought the house in '81, it was a dirt driveway from the front on Harbor View through the porte-cochere all the way to the back. And I don't know, I'm not sure how many years ago we put the driveway in, but the garage has stayed the same, hasn't changed. And there's a smaller structure to the west, which is a smaller house. We call it our little house. And it's just the house that the people lived in while they were building the big one. And they're all in line, everything's, and that's what we're trying to do, is just keep everything like it is. But again, the garage, yes, it will be a little bit bigger than what it was, but single story, everything will be about the same.
Are there any other questions from the board? Seeing none. You've got 3 minutes for rebuttal if you need it.
I don't have a rebuttal. I apologize for my.
All right. Then, without objection, we will close the public hearing and open it up for board discussion or motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right, Ms. Walker.
I move that the variance request for case VRB 20-28 for property located at 3202 West Harbor View be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduction of the rear yard setback from 3 feet to 1.5 feet to vest a portion of the existing accessory structure and existing footprint of a garage built in 1921, in addition to allowing the garage as shown on the site plan with encroachment for eaves and gutters, based on the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 27-80 of the city code, specifically that the applicant has demonstrated that he has attempted to locate the garage, that it's impossible to locate the garage to a different area of the property without harming a grand oak that's located in the yard, and that the applicant is not reducing the setback any further than it's already, it's not reducing the setback any more than it was with the existing condition.
Second.
Mr. Farrell? And a vote, please.
David Farrell, aye.
Brett Feldman, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hurtak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
Your motion's been approved, 5-0.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I should have done this before you voted, but I just wanted to get clarification on the site plan, because there is that other structure there, and
Yes.
the request says that they're vesting a portion of the existing accessory structure. So there was a structure to the left of the garage, and is that, I just wanted to get clarification for the record, since this is site plan driven. as to
Yes.
If that's the existing structure that they're seeking to vest, that you all just approved.
Let's clarify that. The little house,
Yes,
is that part of your motion to vest the location of that house as well?
when you say, when you say vested,
It appears to be the same distance from the property line roughly as the
Exactly.
garage that you're trying to vest.
Exactly. That's
And
same.
the notice does say existing accessory structure and existing footprint of garage.
Right,
So the assumption is that it does include the little house, but we want to clarify with you, that was the intent, to include that in your
right.
approval.
Again, my intent was just the garage. I didn't have, just, I wanted to let you know about the little house because it's, you know, it's where it's been, just like the garage, so I don't.
It appears that the motion is written in a way to include that building.
Okay.
It seems like we should include it if we can, but we've got to ask Ms. Curry because she's shaking her head otherwise.
Mr. Pastor? We should also probably open the public record.
Oh.
And
Public
if-
hearing.
If we need to open the
Reopen the public
reopen the
hearing.
public hearing, I would move to do so. Brett Feldman.
Do we need a second to reopen the public hearing?
You could do it by assent if no one objects.
Okay, we'll reopen the public hearing to address this issue, please. Ms. Curry?
Roberta Curry, Planning, Design, Development Coordination. The only portion of the project that we were understanding that the variance was to relate to is this area here. The existing accessory structure sits within this footprint,
Mm-hmm.
and as he discussed, he's enlarging it.
Right.
This is not part of the project this evening.
But the verbal description that we have says existing accessory structure and existing footprint of garage built in 1921.
Yes, existing accessory structure.
Yeah.
Because it is a detached garage, so it is an existing accessory structure. And it was
Okay.
my understanding that this was the footprint that they were going to maintain and add on here and add on here.
Okay. So the vesting of the little house really is not necessary unless they wanted to do work in that structure.
They would have to renotice.
Right,
Would
but-
not be
But
applicable.
if it doesn't occur tonight, it doesn't affect that structure until the time that they want to modify it,
Legal
correct?
can-
Because it's an existing condition.
Legal can respond to me, but this structure here is not part of the application this evening. So
Oh.
we have no,
Okay, all right, well then that's how it is. Is there anybody else that needs to speak before we close the public hearing? No. All right, we'll close the public hearing, get back to the motion on, well, I guess the motion's already been approved,
Well, now,
so we were
I
just
believe that
clarifying.
somebody mentioned vesting the portion of the existing accessory structure, so.
Well, yeah, they just read right off of this sheet here.
Right.
Which
and
is still
so-
valid, right? I guess what Ms. Curry is saying is that the structure is the garage and the footprint is the footprint, as if they were two different things somehow.
So just for, just for clarification, I apologize for complicating it, but it's to vest the proposed garage
Yes,
as indicated and shown on the site plan.
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure so that when the letter goes out for your signature, everybody's clear.
Do we need to amend the way the motion was read in any way, or was it clear? It came right off of this sheet, so,
No, I understand. I just, if
Okay.
there wasn't that extra building there, it wouldn't be
Right.
confusing. I just want to,
all right. Then you've been approved 5-0.
I want to thank the board and the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to case VRB 2029, located at 9310 North Willow Avenue. Are you present? Yes. Okay. Ms. Curry?
Okay. Roberta Mead Curry, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. I have been sworn. Case number VRB 2029, address is 9310 North Willow Avenue. Applicant is seeking relief from section 27-284 to remove 47-inch grand tree in the middle of the lot. Applicant is seeking to build new single-family residence. The property is zoned RS50, and the Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's information is included in your packet. Land development right-of-way has given a consistent to this. They have changed their legal description and are now correct. So right-of-way has changed their decision to consistent. Natural Resources has found it consistent, and zoning has found it inconsistent. Do you have Natural Resources report? Property appraiser, page 1, and it is a vacant lot. Variance map. Again, subject properties here in red. The surrounding properties are RS50. And you do have a PD in this direction here. Site plan. Again, Willow Avenue here. Driveway, proposed location of new structure, and the trees in question here are going to be remaining. Looking into the lot from the street. Looking down Willow Avenue. Looking down Willow Avenue in the other direction. This lot was part of a formal decision which was split, and they have adhered to that. They have recorded the legal descriptions and are processing through I have nothing further to add to the record.
Okay. You could please give us your name, address, and whether or not you've been sworn.
Yes, my name is David Boger, and my address is 19114 Avenue, Bayonnes, and that's in Lutz, and I haven't been sworn.
You have not?
No.
Okay,
I raised
Mr.
my hand earlier.
Mr. Burks, can we get a swear, please?
Stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear and affirm that you will give the whole truth and nothing but the truth?
I will.
Thanks.
You have 10 minutes to present your case.
Okay, thank you. As it's already been described, the particular lot is similar in size to the other lots on the street. It's 62 feet wide, and it's about 138 feet deep, 0.2 acre. And it's part of what we propose to build a 1,900 square foot house, which is also in keeping with the homes in the neighborhood. It's not oversized by any stretch. It's a one-story craftsman style very much, you know, in tune with the other homes in the neighborhood. During the permit process late last year and early this year, I had a meeting with DNR. I had 2 staff members with DNR that wanted to sit down with me and trying to figure out if there was a way to save the Grand Oak. Unfortunately, the Grand Oak sits right, it's perfectly in the center of this lot. There's 3 more beautiful oak trees that are further forward that we definitely can save those. But we tried moving the house all the way to the right setback, all the way to the left setback, try to pull it forward. There was no way to not adversely affect the tree, and there was just no way around it. So what I ended up doing with DNR's recommendation was to actually take the house, which I'd already designed, had it architect draw it up, as I reversed it so that the driveway was on the right-hand side. So that allowed me to save one of these other oaks out front. So we did everything we could do to save the surrounding trees and just couldn't come up with any way to save the tree in the middle. We even thought about going up to a 2-story, but that still would have impacted where the Grand Oak was. So the best case scenario we came up with, DNR staff, was to reverse the home. We even designed the driveway to be a ribbon style so that it would be even less impermeable surface. So we did that. And we did all we could to protect all the surrounding, and as you saw in the pictures earlier, there's a lot of canopy out there. Even with this tree being removed, there's still a lot of canopy, not only on my lot, but the surrounding street and neighborhood. So I'm out here tonight to ask for the variance to remove that oak.
You have a site plan you could show us with the tree?
Sure.
So that's the proposed plan?
That is it.
And I guess the tree is the little X in the middle there with the 47 next to it?
That's, yes, right here.
All right. Does that conclude your presentation?
Pardon me?
Does that conclude your presentation?
Yes.
Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this case? Seeing none, board questions? No? All right, well, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Thank you, but I'm
All right.
fine.
Well, without objection, we will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion. Mr. Farrell?
Yeah. Motion for approval without condition?
Okay.
Okay. Let me get it lined up here.
I think it's actually the approval of a tree removal.
You gotta use the tree
Oops.
language.
Yeah, it's down at number 5.
Down at number 5, thank you. Sorry, another rookie mistake, excuse me. So approval of a tree removal, okay. Move that the variance request for case VRB 2029 for the property located at 9310 North Willow Avenue be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioners meeting the burden of proof that the tree would be rendered hazardous by proposed construction that cannot reasonably be reconfigured when considering the factors set forth in section 27-284.25 of the city code for grand tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record at this public hearing showed that the applicant did everything possible to try and redesign the house around the tree, but was unable and was successful in preserving 2 other large oaks on site.
Is there a second?
Sam Walker, second.
Ms. Walker? And a vote, please.
David Farrell, aye.
Brett Feldman, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hurtak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
Your motion's been approved, 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Next case is case VRB 2031, located at 5421 Likes Lane, AKA 5499 Likes Lane. Are you present? Yes? Okay. For legal, I just wanted to state that I'm doing active business with Mr. Gardner and Mr. Pederica on some zoning projects at my place of business. They have nothing to do with this case.
Okay, and do you have any financial or pecuniary interest in the outcome of this matter?
No.
And do you believe you can remain impartial to this matter regardless of your relationship with Mr. Gardner and Mr. Pederica?
Yes. And this is not the case I was talking to you about. I did not know these guys were coming.
Okay.
So.
Just to clarify real quick, Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive, for the record, kind of a late ad. We thought that we had submitted the form authorizing me as agent, but I don't think Ms. Mead is aware of that.
Okay.
So I'm going to go first, but just kind of in the role as general public comment.
Okay.
Although I'll be advocating for Mr. Likes.
The city has asked that everybody keep their mask on, Mr. Gardner.
Sure. Just can't quite get used to this.
And we usually start with the staff report before.
Okay.
Well, so is there an affidavit to authorize agent for you to speak on behalf of the property
I
owner?
thought we had sent one the following day, but she's, Ms. Mead saying she doesn't have it. The client is here and could attest to that if,
If the board's, okay, well, maybe let's hear from the property owner that,
If the property owner would like to step up and just give Mr. Gardner some verbal authorization to act on your behalf.
and if he's been sworn as well.
And please introduce yourself and whether or not you've been sworn.
Yes, I am Charlie Likes, and I'm the property owner, and I would like, I request that y'all allow Truett Gardner to represent me.
And have you been sworn in?
Excuse me?
Have you been sworn in?
No, I have not.
Okay, we'll have to do that real quick. Mr. Burks, is anybody else in the audience not been sworn in that thinks you may speak? Please stand and we can do this all together.
Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, Mr. Likes. Ms. Curry,
Yeah.
staff report, please.
Reporter Mead Curry, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination, VRB 20-31 is the case number. Address is 5421 Likes Lane, also known as 5499 Likes Lane. Applicant is seeking relief from section 27-284 to remove 2 grand trees. I think their application is also going to be modified this evening, and they'll present that information to you this evening. The property is zoned RS 150. The Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's information is included in your packet. Right-of-Way has found this inconsistent with conditions. What they're asking for is the developer to label all easements as private and include the recorded information at time of permitting. There is no record of any public drainage easements as well on this property and lots per the subdivision plat, and they would need that to be recorded as well. Addressing is found at consistent, transportation is found at inconsistent, natural resources has found it inconsistent, and they are here for questions that you may have of them. Zoning at this point, because it is Code Section 27-284 is making a ruling that it's not applicable to zoning for review, okay? Because it's strictly a grant tree case.
Okay.
Natural Resources Report, page 1. It's really acting. Come on. Okay, that's the best I'm gonna do. So, page 2 of that report. Page 3. And this was the plan presented for the Natural Resources Report. I'm sorry, this is not working very well. Can't see it. And again, has been some modifications to the request, and that'll be presented this evening. So there's a revised site plan showing the placement of the home and a close-up of the trees in question. Property appraiser's information. Again, it is a vacant lot, so it's only 1 page. Variance map. Again, property in question is here, and again, all surrounding properties are zoned RS 150. Looking at the front of the lot. Looking northwest, sorry, looking north, yes, looking northwest, down the street. Looking southeast. Looking into the lot again on the other side. Looking to the north, down Likes Lane, this is still the same street. And looking to the south. Again, standing and looking deep into the lot so you can see the trees. Various site plans presented by the applicant. They're very hard to read, so I'm gonna let the applicant and Natural Resources make their presentations since the plans are hard to read. There is an extensive multi-page arborist report. I won't show you all the pages, but we have received that report. I do have 2 letters of opposition and also an additional letter of opposition that has come in that I will enter into the record this evening. This letter is from Elizabeth Carrera. The second is from Tiffy Beerley. The third letter is also in opposition, and this one is from Gail Likes. I do have 2 letters of support. This one is from Susan Mueller. And a letter of support from Mallory Likes. I have nothing further to add to the record.
Thank you. Mr. Gardner, if you'd like to reintroduce yourself, address, and whether or not you've been sworn.
Sure. Truett Gardner, 400 North Ashley Drive, and yes, I have been sworn.
All right, you've got 10 minutes to present your case.
Sure. I've had the pleasure of representing Mr. Charles Likes. He's the owner of the property at 5421 Likes Lane. And at the onset, Roberta mentioned a couple of things. One is the initial finding of inconsistency and then the subsequent finding of consistency. I don't want to speak to all the letters of opposition but I did want to clarify at the onset that I believe most, if not all, were written under the original plan, which was the removal of 2 grand oak trees. This is a compromise plan worked out with Mr. Pederica and Natural Resources on just removing 1. I just wanted, it's a little bit confusing, I just wanted to clarify that for the record, 1, but then also to clarify to you that our plan is to proceed with the compromise plan and the compromise only. The proposed development on this site is a single-family residential house of just over 5,000 square feet. The lot itself is 1.24 acres, so a sizable sized lot. The property is unique, as you saw from the pictures, in that it's heavily wooded. The property is also unique in that it's subject to the declarations of the Likes Lane subdivision. And in those, among other things, are enhanced setbacks. Front yard setbacks are required to be 50 feet. Side yard setbacks are required to be 30 feet as opposed to your traditional 7 feet that you see in a lot of single-family residential neighborhoods. And then your rear yard, similar to most of the ones in the city, or slightly more, is 30 feet as opposed to the traditional 20. And as a result of these setbacks, it has the result of reducing the potential building footprint. And so when you take that in conjunction with the trees that are on site, you've got to do some gymnastics to be able to locate a house. And with respect to these trees, they are an absolutely integral part of the design and are a large part of what makes this neighborhood and this lot in particular so special. And I'm gonna let Mr. Pederica, the project arborist, speak to most of this since this is really a tree issue at its heart. But I did think a couple of statistics would be worthy of your consideration. One is there are 55 trees on the lot and only 10 are slated to be removed. As you see on properties that are in excess of an acre, it's typically 50% retainage. This is 84.6% retainage. There are a total of 8 non-hazardous grand oaks on the property. 7 are slated to be retained. And there are 6 other live oaks ranging in diameter from 11 inches to 31 inches, and all of those are slated to be retained. Our request pertains to the removal of a single grand tree, which Ricky will go through in detail. But I thought that context would be helpful just to look at the lot as a whole as opposed to just this one tree. And with that, I'll turn things over to Mr. Pederica to discuss further. We also have the property owners here as well. And thank you for your consideration.
Good evening, Board. Ricky Pederica, Board Certified Master Arborist, and I have been sworn.
There's a mic there on the table.
Mike?
The 2 trees I'd like you to focus on, these 2 trees here. This is the tree that the grand tree that we're requesting to remove due to its location relative to the proposed footprint. Originally, the site plan showed this grand tree being removed as well. With some adjustments of the building placement and driveway approach and some pruning prescription on this limb here that's in conflict with the building. We determined that we'd be able to preserve this tree. These are some photographs of that tree to be preserved, tree G2. This is one of the limbs that goes over the house. After verifying the extent and height of that limb, we determined we could clear the building and we'd leave that preserved. And this lower limb here is the other limb in conflict. There will need to be a pruning cut either here or here in order to facilitate the house. But considering the scale, the remaining scale of the tree and the minimal impact to leaves, basically, of the canopy lost, we think it won't be an adverse impact on that tree G2. This is a close-up of the tree to be removed, and what I would like to point out is the ficus within the center of the tree. Actually, both trees have this condition which is negatively affecting the tree to some degree. Not at a point where it's considered hazardous, but the clock has been started. So the tree is already being affected negatively by this additional tree inside of it, both of them actually. Before I was brought on board, Eric Hoyer, registered consulting arborist, had reviewed the trees and prepared an inventory at which Mr. Gardner spoke to, but I want to just highlight that he determined that the strangler figs could not be removed from either tree without impacting them further. And while we did some iterations of site plan adjustments to see if we could preserve both, what would happen to the proposed plan, if preserved, would be a loss of a formal dining room, kitchen, a nook and a mudroom, and the connection to the driveway proposed, if this area were essentially excluded from the proposed site plan. Pardon me a moment. This is the tree, oh, sorry, this might take two hands. This is the tree that we're proposing to remove. I think you can more clearly see the ficus within it. This is the tree proposed to remain, tree G2. You can see the ficus in that as well, the higher density of branches. And the limbs that are going to remain over the house, tended to the top of the image, and the limb that we're proposing for removal closer to the bottom, right here. And this, excluding the glare, I apologize, are 5 other grand oak trees to be retained along the outer perimeter of the property that will maintain the street character that is so cool about Lakes Lane in that area. So that's all I have. Thank you.
That complete the whole presentation for the case? Any other speakers? Okay.
No other speakers, thank you.
Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this case? Please come forward. Please state your name, address, whether or not you've been sworn.
My name is Christopher Carrere. I live at 2512 West Sunset Drive, and I'm not here in opposition.
Have you been sworn in?
No, because I wasn't planning on speaking. I just wanted.
Okay. Is there anybody else that doesn't plan on speaking that has not been sworn in? Please stand. Let's just do it just in case.
Please raise your right hand and stand. Do you swear to and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay. You've
Again,
got
I'm not here in
3 minutes
opposition.
to
I'm going to say
speak.
that one more time for the record. Sorry, for the audio. Please stand and raise your right hand. Do you swear to and affirm that you will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Thank you.
You've got 3 minutes.
And please stand close enough to the mic so we can pick up your
In
testimony.
reviewing the letters of opposition, since I am familiar with the neighbors and neighborhood, there are 3 additional letters that were written that were not included in the list of letters of opposition. So just like for the council to be aware that 3 additional neighbors had submitted letters of opposition that were not included in that. That's all I have to say.
Ms. Curry, did you receive any letters?
The letters that we have were presented to us and uploaded to the record and sent via email and sent to vrb@tampagov.net. There was nothing else at 5:30 when I came over. So if you had do you have a hard copy you'd like to present to the record? Do you have the names of the people?
For consideration of the council to know that relatives of mine that I know have spoken that had presented presented.
Please, we can't, we're not picking them up at
Presented
all.
letters of opposition that weren't included in the list.
Okay,
So, thank you.
thank you.
Hey, good evening.
Hi.
My name is Susan Likes Mueller. I'm a resident of 5420 Likes Lane. I might just point out that I was born and raised on Likes Lane. I'm 71 years old, and I have lived on Likes Lane probably for about 50 or 60 of those years. And that community was my great-grandfather's cow pasture. It is beautiful. It has a number of oak trees. All the neighbors cherish them. It also is an area that has been well protected and closely guarded by the Likes family for the specific reason that we wanted members of the family to be able to build homes there. The original plat dates way back, I think, to the 1920s. That was my grandfather's generation. The plat where Mr. Likes' lot is located was platted by my father and his generation. And even though I love trees, I think that it is in the best interest of the neighborhood if we make it possible for Mr. Likes to build on that lot. I did write a letter in favor of same, and I know of an immediate neighbor whose property abuts Mr. Likes's, who also wrote a letter. So we urge really the acceptance of, or the granting of this variance. We think it will still be a beautiful green area with a wonderful tree canopy that we continue to protect and enhance. We all plant bushes and shrubs every year, and I don't think that's going to stop. I just don't see any harm in letting someone else build a quality home in a quality neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is John Mueller. I live at 5420 Lakes Lane.
Have you been sworn in?
Yes, I have been.
Okay.
Thank you.
You've got 3 minutes.
We've lived there since 1987. And when our house was built, there was an oak tree that was taken down to build the house. We still have 26 oak trees on our property. I also understand that when the house across the street was built, they took down one oak. So as you see from the pictures, there are lots of oak trees. I don't think it's going to do any harm to take down one oak tree to allow someone to build a house there. And we speak in favor of granting the variance, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else present that'd like to speak on this case? Seeing none, we'll open it up for board questions.
So I just have one question for Natural Resources. Just seeking some clarity. I thought I understood this at the start, and maybe I do, but I just want to make sure. With the compromise of the one oak tree, does Natural Resources find this consistent?
Yes, that's correct. The inconsistency finding was for the original site plan, but with the amended alternative site plan, we find that consistent.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? Seeing none, petitioners, you have 3 minutes for rebuttal.
Just wanted to thank you for your time. Again, wanted to clarify that it's our intention to proceed with the modified alternate site plan with the removal of one oak tree and not the one with the two. So just wanted to set that clear for the record. And then just wanted to reiterate, we think it's a good compromise. We think it's well-reasoned, well thought out, and in particular that it does retain almost 85% of the trees on the property. 7 of the 8 non-hazardous grand oaks, the one that you saw by Mr. Pederica's dead center of the lot, dead center of the building footprint, and creates a hardship. And then lastly, the 6 other live oaks ranging in diameter from 11 inches to 31 inches will also all be retained. So happy to answer any other questions you may have, and thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Probably would be good for any motions to reference the site plan presented at this hearing tonight, just to bar any confusion. So without objection, we will close the public hearing and open it up for a motion. Mr. Feldman.
I will make a motion, presuming that I have the right language, so somebody shout it out if I get this wrong. I move that the variance request for case VRB 20-30, 31, pardon me, 20-31, for property located at 5421 Likes Lane, also known as 5499 Likes Lane, be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for removal of a grand tree based upon the petitioner meeting the burden of proof that the tree would be rendered hazardous by proposed construction that cannot be reasonably reconfigured when considering the factors set forth in section 27-284.2.5F. Am I doing the right one? Yes? Yeah? Okay, great. Of the city code for grand tree removal, specifically that the evidence provided in the record and at this public hearing showed that the one grand tree sits basically squarely in the middle of the lot, that the applicant has sought to utilize alternative building plans and has reached a compromise with natural resources, and the city's natural resources department finds the compromise consistent, that the applicant is preserving numerous other grand trees on the property and is preserving other non-grand trees on the property.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. And vote, please.
David Farrell, aye.
Brett Feldman, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hurtak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
Thank you. Your motion's been approved, 5-0. The final case of the evening is case VRB 2045, located at 1516 West North B Street. Are you present? Yes?
Hello, I have a letter here to present. I am here on her behalf. My name is Marco Suarez. I live at 803 South Fremont.
Are you,
Ms. Yona is my sister-in-law, and so I have a notarized letter here granting me permission to
be
speak on
agent?
her behalf.
Authorized agent?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can we accept that now?
Yes, they called this afternoon, and she is not able to appear, but she's having her authorized agent here, and that was acceptable.
Okay, great. If you could just turn that into Ms. Curry, and Ms. Curry, you can give us the staff report, please.
Yes. VRB, again, Roberta May Curry, Planning, Design, and Development Coordination. Case number VRB 20-45. The address is 1516 West North B Street.
Applicant is seeking to relief from section 27-156. The applicant is seeking to reduce the side yard from 7 feet to 3 feet. Applicant is seeking to amend previously approved site plan via VRB 19-84. Approved VRB hearing on August 13th, 2019. Applicant is seeking to construct a single-family residence. The property is zoned RS50, and the Hillsborough County Property Appraiser's information is included in your packet. Right-of-way found it consistent. Transportation has found it consistent with conditions, with the request to show the driveway apron flares on the site plan at time of permitting. Natural Resources has found it consistent, and if you have any questions of Natural Resources, they are here today. Zoning has found it inconsistent. This is the report from Natural Resources, page 1. Page 2.
page 3. Property appraiser's information. It is a vacant lot. The house that was there is now removed at this time. Variance review map. Again, it's a very skinny lot here in red. Surrounding property is RS50. RS50 here as well. You have mixed use RSIG and RS50. You have a PD here. This is the approved PD VRB 1984 decision letter, which was granted on and signed August 27th, 2019. Okay, the site plan, it's very hard to read. And survey, sorry. Is that better? Yes. Survey. Sorry. And the site plan, this is the existing or the proposed house. And what they were amending is that this is going to 3 stories or 35 feet, which was not clarified on the previous variance. I have nothing further to add to the record.
Okay. Please state your name again, your address, and whether or not you've been sworn.
My name is Marco Suarez. I reside at 803 South Fremont Avenue here in Tampa, and I have been sworn in.
All right, you've got 10 minutes to present your case.
I don't think I need 10 minutes.
All right, we'll see.
I appreciate your time. My sister-in-law is an attorney here with the state attorneys, and she'll do a way better job at this than I will, but I'll try to make it short and sweet. I am here to amend the detail that was included improperly, I guess, or potentially changed when she originally filed for this variance and was approved. Specifically right here, it lists the proposed residence, because this was a proposed site plan from last year, that it's a 2-story residence. And now I'm proposing a 3-story residence because she has a way better site plan, as well as a clearer direction in which she's going to build her home. The home will be below the 35 feet maximum. And I don't know if you need any more details than that.
Okay, does that conclude your presentation?
Yes, it does.
Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on this? Seeing none. Board questions?
Sure.
Mr. Feldman?
Let's just do this real quick. So we approved a variance for you for this property about a year ago. Just explain real quickly, how are the dimensions, other than the stories, are they changing in any way?
Absolutely not, no, sir.
Okay, well, see, that makes it pretty
Yeah,
easy for me.
the footprint of the actual residence is going to remain the same. Because it's one of the older shotgun lots that exist
Right.
all over the city, there is definitely some building constraints. So I think it's, I didn't look at it here, but I'm going to guess, oh yeah, there it is, 25 feet wide.
Yeah, it's a tight
And
lot.
so I think the code is 7 feet from the property line.
Correct.
The only detail that came up a while ago was in developing how the residence was going to exist, because of the drainage issues that exist on North A. It's a little bit north of Kennedy. The house had to be elevated, and so that kind of affected how the house was going to be constructed, but it's still going to remain the same exact footprint.
Okay. So the footprint remains unchanged. The only thing really that you're changing is that there's another floor being
Exactly.
added,
We're
but it's
just
still
amending
going
that
to be
detail.
below the 35-foot
Absolutely.
max.
Yes,
Great.
sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other board questions? All right, you've got 3 minutes for rebuttal. Okay. Then without objection, we will close the public hearing and open it up for motion.
I'll make a motion.
All right.
Moved at the variance request for case VRB 20-45 for property located at 1516 West North B Street be granted as depicted on the site plan presented at the public hearing for a reduce in the side yard setback from 7 feet to 3 feet to amend the previously approved VRB 19-84 site plan to build a new single-family residence not to exceed 35 feet in height to add a third story. Did I get that right? With an encroachment for the eaves and gutter.
Second story or third story?
To add a third story.
Okay.
Third story.
With an encroachment for the eaves and gutters based upon the applicant presenting competent and substantial evidence in the record and at this public hearing of an unnecessary hardship or practical difficulty when considering the 5 hardship criteria set forth in section 2780 of the city code, specifically that it is an incredibly narrow lot and there is not a lot that they can do with the site plan for the house, so they are going up, but not exceeding the 35-foot height limit.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Feldman? And a vote, please.
David Farrell, aye.
Brett Feldman, aye.
Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hertak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
Your case has been approved 5-0.
Thank you very much for your time.
Do we have anything we need from Ms. Curry before we close the hearing? Mr. Burks?
Brett Burks, zoning. For VRB 20-24, the first case we heard tonight, the motion I have from Brett Feldman is as depicted on site plan, to be granted with the condition that it never be enclosed, but I believe that was it. A portion of the site plan submitted was enclosed. So essentially what they submitted was not what you granted.
What was enclosed?
Shower.
The shower.
The shower, well, we
So-
were only intending well, let's clarify it, and we'll vote on the clarification.
Okay.
Can you open it up again?
Just to clarify what was previously moved was only that the main portion, which was on the originally submitted site plan, not the shower room, remain open and unenclosed.
So the cabana.
The
cabana.
cabana, thank you.
Susan, do we have to open it up again officially?
I mean, yeah, you should probably open
Okay.
it and amend your, just for clarification.
We'll open the public hearing and allow Mr. Feldman to make a modification to his motion on VRB 2024.
All right, and so for clarification, my motion is that the cabana is to remain unclosed. It was not intended that the shower room, which is enclosed, be included within that condition.
I'll second that. And do we need to vote on that?
Brett Feldman, aye.
Might as well. Dustin Pastor, aye.
Lynn Hertak, aye.
Sam Walker, aye.
All right. Any other business? Then this hearing is adjourned.